All right. Welcome back. Hey, I'm Brother Brian here on KIEZ, the voice of the community. Here today, interviewing part two of our interview with Judge Larry Jefferson. And we're going to focus on the state of the community. Good morning, Judge Jefferson. How are you?
I'm good. It's good afternoon now.
You're exactly right. Good afternoon. You're right. The last day of Black History. Good afternoon, sir.
All right. I'm doing
Hey,
good today.
good. When we talk about history, we definitely we cannot overlook all of your history, everything that you have shared with the city of Monroe, with Ouachita Parish, with so much experience. Now, the reason I say that is because as I start to become a little bit more seasoned year after year, I start to understand that no matter how much training a person, formal training a person has, is based on experience, real world life experiences that a person goes through. And I'm sitting up here looking at your bio. We're talking about over 40 years of legal and judicial experience combined and 36 years of community service. You have a true passion.
Uh, Yes, been formulated years and years ago from childhood on up. Really, it's more than that. I was going to count an adult experience from the community service.
Okay, just as an adult. Okay, all right. Well, let's get right into it, Judge. I have a couple of quick questions because a lot of people have been asking. We get confused on. We understand. Just looking at you yourself, you're one of the. Well, I don't want to talk about any other candidate, but just looking at you, it's like you actually took the stair step of progression from attending law school. Then at that point, you went practicing law, became a judge at the city level, then became a judge at the district level, and now you're a candidate for becoming a judge at the Court of Appeal. So you've taken the actual steps of progression. And so, if share with us what is your definition or what is your scope? What is a judge's scope of responsibility at the Court of Appeals?
At the Court of Appeals, as I've stated over, to other persons during the campaign, is to review the decisions of the lower court judges coming from the district court, coming from the city court, coming from the juvenile courts, and also coming from the Office of Workers' Compensation. And this to review the decisions that are made. If a litigant complains about an adverse decision, he or she has the right to appeal that decision to the Court of Appeals. And the Court of Appeals makes a determination as to whether or not the decision made at the lower court level was justified or not. So it's really reviewing the decisions of the lower courts.
Okay, when you say lower court, I take it we were talking about the judge that rendered over the case. Is that correct?
Right, right. Or if it's a jury trial, whether the jury decision was correct or not. So you have the right to have either a judge trial only or a jury trial at the district court level. So whichever one makes the decision, whether it's the judge only or the jury, the Court of Appeals reviews those decisions.
Okay, so at the Court of Appeals, a person would normally see which type of cases that are presented. Would it be more so civil cases or more so criminal cases?
You have a variety, but probably there's slightly more of criminal cases that are appealed than are civil cases, but it's a variety of cases coming from, like I say, city court, district court, and office of workers' compensation. You see fewer of those office of workers' compensation cases. More so is the criminal and the civil cases that are appealed to the Court of Appeals.
Okay. Now, in the community, people always address you. This is what I hear. I can only give my experience. People address you as the people's judge. People, not saying that everyone who comes before you are that they are rendered innocent, but they feel comfortable going in front of a judge like yourself, and whatever decision is rendered, they always respect that. As of this day, I have never ever heard anyone speak anything. I haven't ill will in reference to your decisions. And so my question is, how do you actually practice equal justice for the masses of the people?
You do it by applying the law equally to everyone, not being partisan about it, not being playing favorites with who's who or who has how much money. Is basically look at the person as individuals and treat everybody equally before the law and apply the law to that case. And the judge is required to do, not go outside the bounds of the law and make decisions. And when you do that, everybody comes out treated fairly and will have respect for the decision that is made.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense because I heard you mention before in the past that the only thing that keeps everyone equal is the law, actual justice. And so taking this back to what you currently do now, serving on the bench, what is the purpose of a judge at the city level or the purpose of a judge at the district level?
The purpose is the same, to hear the cases and render a decision. There's no difference between city court and district court, except you have jury trials at the district level and felony cases at the district level, and certain other cases at the district level that you do not have at the city court level. City court primarily handles all misdemeanor cases, and the civil cases with under certain value, a dollar amount in terms of the value of the case, and they do not handle cases dealing with questions of title to real estate or successions, deceased persons or successions, those matters, and divorces, those matters handled at the district court level. And there are some city courts that handle juvenile cases, as Monroe City Court did handle juvenile cases. There are other jurisdictions where the jury is separate from the city court, but at Monroe City, it was combined with city court, the juvenile cases.
Okay, okay. And by you, with your experience coming from the city court, the district court, it would seem that you're one of the candidates that has so much experience. And so when you are elected to the Court of Appeals, you have a plethora of experience. And as these cases come before you, it's nothing new. But knowing you from being in class, you research so much information. You put in hours and hours of research. Do you think that is something that a judge has to continuously educate him or herself throughout the years, or just take a seat back and just go off of what they believe?
Where it's required by the Code of Judicial Ethics and Conduct that a judge, keeps up with the law. And you can't keep up with the law unless you read and keep up and research the law. And especially when you're hearing cases, you have to do the research to make sure that, what is being heard before you complies within the bounds of that. Or is there a way that you can render the decision without going outside the bounds of the law? First thing, judge, is to be just and apply the law fairly and equally and be knowledgeable of the law. And you can draw from your own experiences also in terms of rendering those decisions, because there are a lot of things that go on in court that if you didn't have a broad background, a knowledge of issues, that you would not be able to properly render a fair and just decision in a case.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, Judge, you've been in law for over 40 years of legal and judicial experience. That's what you currently possess. What has been your inspiration just to, when I see you, I look at you as a person, a guru of law, a person that just loves the law. What has been your inspiration to stick with this industry?
Well, as I may have mentioned this before, but growing up as a child, I would sit and watch the television and see the demonstrations that were taking place, in Mississippi and across the South, dealing with civil rights and the brutality that was heaped upon persons who were trying to exercise their rights and were denied rights based on their skin color. That was the foundational for me to be interested in the law. And that has been a basis which I've relied upon going forward also, that every person should be treated fairly and equally. And sometimes that does not happen in the judicial system, because the system, it has some racism in it, and you have to be aware of it and know it when you see it. If you don't know it when you see it, you cannot address it and be appropriate with it when you are making decisions, because that's a factor that, with the current state of affairs in the United States now, with the previous presidential administration, cutting back on the rights of persons, trying to deny persons' right to vote, et cetera, you have to have someone who's willing to apply the law, not afraid to make the decision, and apply the law fairly and equally. And like I said before, when you do that, you always come out on the right side of an issue. Not 100%, but predominantly on the right side of an issue, because no judge is perfect. I've had decisions reversed before, therefore I know what to look for when I'm on the Court of Appeals, what to look for in terms of how to avoid, certain things.
Now that's a powerful statement, Judge, and that contributes to experience. And it's nothing better than experience in any adult experience, adult livelihood development, and also through the years of education. Nothing better than experience. Well, Judge, you said that so well. I think that answers all my questions, because the only other thing is that I've heard in the communities that sometimes the reason we must pick the correct judge and the fair judge is because sometime in the court, rich people that are guilty may have a better opportunity than poor people that are innocent. So it is so important for us to pick the right judge. What do you think about that?
That's correct, because if you have to be aware of that and aware to ensure that the person who comes in at a disadvantage in terms of the representation, in terms of their economic status, that you try to be sure there's a balanced approach to the situation at hand, and not allow those outside factors to influence your decision, because it happens quite a bit that persons who have money get a better break than other folks who do not have money, or who are of a different color, or different economic status or social status, and all that should come into play when you, in terms of trying to ensure that does not influence the decisions that's made in the courtroom. And you have to be on guard constantly to ensure that does not take place. Now, my experience in that comes from, like I say, having worked in the community, dealing with all sorts of issues, poverty, education, etc., juvenile issues outside of the courtroom. That experience comes into play when I'm in the courtroom in terms of how you can assess a problem and how you can best resolve an issue by the decision that you make in court.
Well, Judge, I definitely appreciate your time taken out on the last day of Black History. You are history for us here in Monroe City, and also Ouachita Parish. Judge, I'll give you the last few words. Let us know when are the dates for election, and I'll allow you to take us out of here.
Right, the election, early voting starts March the 6th and 13th, and election day is March the 20th. And we're urging everyone to go out and vote, because it's the only thing on the ballot is the Court of Appeals race in some parishes, and all the parishes that are voting would be the congressional race also. Of course, Morehouse Parish has an election there for mayor, city of Bastrop, and city council races up there, and those are the primary things on the ballot. And sometimes people tend not to go out to vote unless it's a high-profile race, such as presidential race. Most people are not interested in judicial races unless they're on the ballot with something else, a high profile. And therefore, we urge every person to go out and cast their vote and make a decision as to who you want to not represent you, but serve on the Court of Appeals to ensure that fairness is at hand and played out at that level.
Well, sounds good. And I definitely appreciate your time, Judge. Thank you again. And voting is important, and let everyone know, get out there and vote. And it is face-to-face is on March 20th. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
All right. Any last few words before we get out of here?
Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Thank you.